Oda is a character from Cyberpunk 2077 that I cosplayed, and in photos and especially videos it looks really cool, but in real life it looks kinda bland. Especially without the glowy bits, you end up looking like a mall security guard or something. And that got me thinking, what would he look like if he was not a stealthy ninja character, but more someone on the front lines, you know, leading the charge, like a shock troop or something. So with that in mind, I designed my own alternate version with hundreds of LEDs, and the crown jewel, the helmet, that's actually stainless steel. So yeah, this one is gonna be a good one.
So how do I make him stand out more? The idea is that you should still see it's Oda, just a bit more eye-catching, so I can't go too crazy with the changes. Lucky for me, there are units in the game that wear a white version of the same uniform, so that would be both lore consistent and more eye-catching. So I got to sewing. The sewing process was pretty smooth and not much to show there, really. There were some details that were kind of difficult to recreate in real life, but I think I got most of the stuff right. I used fabric with some stretch, so it's quite comfy, and since it's a uniform, of course it has pockets. The knee and elbow pads are top coated, so everything is washable, which is great because white is just such a stain magnet. The harness is the same for both colors, so I didn't need to remake that one, but I made the shoulder plates about 15% bigger to give a more of a top-heavy, bulkier look. In white, this looks just so much more striking, it's kinda crazy, and it's gonna be a great foundation for the rest of the outfit.
The red helmet I resin printed, and it just took so much effort, so when an airline broke it and I fixed it up as best as I could, I kinda got a phobia about it being really fragile. I didn't wear it much after. I knew then and there that I will want a stronger material for future builds. The strongest material you could pick, of course, is metal, and I have used metal before in cosplay because it looks so cool, but all of the other problems aside, how would you even begin recreating this glowing demon face ornament on a piece of steel?
I was thinking about acid etching or engraving by hand, but you know, if you want the light to shine through, it has to be a hole, and I have no way to drill that precisely, so I had to think a bit outside the box here.
And there's this process called SLM that has been on my radar for a while. Essentially, it's metal 3D printing with lasers. Those machines are just crazy expensive and huge. So I had the raw blanks for me produced by this company called JLC 3DP. They're not sponsoring this video, they just gave me a coupon to try out their services, and I did, and they were really helpful.
SLM has certain limitations, like how thin parts can be, minimum hole size, overhangs and so on, so I needed to modify the design, but it's not enough to notice. What you do notice is the weight. For it to be printable, it needed to be a bit thicker than I needed, and that made the visor too heavy for the motors. Metal 3D printing leaves this rough surface, so I figured I'll be sanding anyway, but I guess I just didn't realize how hard stainless steel really is. So to get back down to the thickness and the weight I intended, I literally spent days and kilowatts of power. In total, I removed around 200 grams of steel, which all settled all over the workshop. My goal is a mirror finish, so I work my way up to about 2000 grit paper, and this leaves quite a reflective surface. I don't go polishing right away because I want everything else to be done, so I could polish out any scratches or something from me handling it while building. Still, so far so good. The electronics are almost exactly the same as the red helmet. The biggest difference is that the servo motors are getting way more voltage, so they could handle more weight. Honestly, at this point, it was just such a relief to work with a metal visor. I knew that what happened to the red one won't happen again. And even unpolished and without any lights, it was just looking so good already. To make the inside reflect more light, I wire brush it, and then finally, I polish the outside. See, this is why I love working with metal. The shine on this, it's just unmistakable. It's gonna be such a fingerprint magnet, but I don't even care because white and chrome is just such a clean color combination. I'm really excited. Speaking of color, I wasn't sure what color LEDs I should go with. Maybe white like the uniform, or red like the original, or maybe something more outside the box. In the end though, I settled on this ice blue, which makes skin tones look very spooky, and it kind of follows the whole idea of color inversion from the original palette, so there's some logic there. Another cool thing about using metal is that it's conductive, so to simplify wiring, I soldered all of the LEDs directly to the visor itself, and now I can connect the positive wire to anywhere on the visor and it will make it glow. I wasn't even planning for it, it just occurred to me while building, but you know, with half the wires, there's just so fewer things to break. The rest of the helmet is basically the same as the original, so the process was quite smooth. Just a bunch of sanding, filling, and painting. The gloss white was just such an unforgiving color though, there was always a tiny speck of dust floating in the last second, so I had to redo it a few times. Since the jaw part is also heavier, I ended up using magnets which are twice as thick for the power delivery and fastening. You know, for peace of mind. I finish up soldering the jaw part LEDs and give it a quick test before moving on. Wait. Moving on, I added some more LEDs for some extra glow, and this time it works. Then, a few less details, and we got ourselves a helmet. The chrome, the white, the ice blue, especially with the red details, they just work so well together. And in the dark, when you make eye contact through the visor, it's just so unsettling. There's plenty of airflow and visibility, and it's exactly what I was going for. But we're not done yet.
For the weapon, I didn't want to build yet another set of mantis blades. I mean, they look cool and everything, but they're more of a ninja assassin weapon, and for this one, I kind of want something more big and in your face. That's what she said. Then I stumbled upon these arm tubes in the game files, and that's exactly what I was looking for. They add size to the upper body, the entire surface area can be used for eye-catching animations, and they're flexible, so that means that they should be quite transportable. One little problem, they kinda end nowhere, so I needed to design this backpack thing to control and power them.
It's completely my design. I tried to imitate the clean, angular Arasaka style. I hope you see what I had in mind. If you grab it by the handle and lift it up, you'll reveal the insides. This is where all the electronics are, and as you see in the open compartment, that's where the battery is that powers both the tubes and the helmet. The helmet gets power and trigger signals through this uplink here at the top. The top shell is solid and attached with magnets, but for transport or repairs, you can take the bottom half apart with just a screwdriver and unplug the plugs. I think this part is just as important as the rest of the outfit, just cause if you can't pack it down and travel with it to show it off, what's the point? The cuffs are a little bit different than the game. I needed to alter them a bit to make them easier to put on. These uplinks that hold the tubes are resin printed, and I airbrushed them with black chrome to make them similar to the metal visor. Sadly, it would have been too heavy and way too expensive to make all of these from steel, but it would have matched better. And to keep everything aligned, I added these curved spacers beneath the top layer of the fabric.
As for the tubes themselves, I've used these silicone diffuser tubes and a bunch of addressable LED strips. I guess it's kind of self-explanatory what's happening here.
The tubes are kind of milky, opaque, and they have a bunch of texture on the inside to help diffuse the light, and it's really effective.
In my Medusa build, I used 2 LED strips back to back per tube, but here I'm using just the one, and you can kind of make out the dark spots where the LEDs are pointing the wrong way, but that was a conscious compromise. This leaves more space for the LEDs to move around inside when I do, and hopefully that will prolong their life.
To control the animations in the helmet, I didn't want to run a whole separate cable, so I pulled through some thin wires on the backside of the LED strips in the tubes themselves. They're not that visible, and they make just everything so much cleaner, to the point where people ask me, how do I control all these things? But there are 2 buttons, one for the helmet and then one for the power-up animation. Early on though, I had a pressure sensor for a more finer control of the animations, like for flame height and whatnot, but in the end I settled on this. When idle, the tubes pulse with these ice blue energy waves, and as soon as they reach the end, the flames flash up for a second as if they're being fed by them. Kinda like grease drops in a barbecue. But if you hold down the power up button, you can charge up your ultimate move and make the flames go crazy, and when you let it go, everything washes over with this white flash of light. This is just super cool for posing in videos because it always gives you something to do, and of course you can sell the effect even harder with some acting. As you see, the LEDs are very bright, even in a decently lit room, but the drawback is that one battery lasts only for around 45 minutes. And running them at full brightness makes everything just so warm.
On the flip side, I can always take off my helmet when I need some fresh air, and honestly, nothing is perfect, and as far as cosplays go, this has been just brilliant. It's quite comfy to wear, it's really durable, and most importantly, very eye-catching. I've been to a few events with this already, and I had a bunch of people ask for pictures, and I actually had some really awesome shots of me made. Since this is partly my own design, it feels extra nice when people like it, because, you know, it makes all this extra effort not for nothing. And, you know, they get to see something cool, I get extra motivation to work on new stuff, so yeah, win-win. So yeah, a good end to a good project. I'm cooking up some cool stuff behind the scenes, so if you would like some exclusive goodies or you would like to support me, you can check out my Patreon or join us on Discord. There's a lot of creative people talking about electronics and cosplay and whatnot. I think you might like it there. But yeah, that being said, Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.